Thank you. All righty, we are going to start our study session. I have item number 8, and I will know by Monday. Councilor Thompson.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. I have items 9 and 10. If councilors have any questions relative to these, otherwise these items are ready. They're self-explanatory.
Thank you. Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 11 through 20. Item 11 is Dave Proack, contract Spectrum Business. Is Dave here? Maybe if Dave comes back later, we'll go back to him. I would say, given all the internet service, what's that?
You could speak on it.
Dave Delvecchio, do you want to try to? No.
He said no. He said no.
I'll just say for him before, so when he comes next time, I'm interested in a summary of overall internet connections and what we pay. So payment per connection and then total we spend on internet across the city, just so that we can have the context since these keep coming up. Okay, item 12, the RAN, Dave.
Councilors, Dave Delvecchio, Commissioner of Finance.
I did.
The annual revenue anticipation note is used for the city and the school district. A few months ago, we borrowed for the school district and for the city. The intent is to borrow some of money, get us through the winter with state aid reimbursing the amount we borrow. It's an annual item. The amount is consistent with what we've been borrowing the last few years.
Has there been incremental raises?
A few $1 million. I could go back in time, but last few years have been about 45 million. Right, and we pay it back late June, early. Right now, we pay it back around July 10th, and I think the plan for this particular borrowing will be to repay it on or about July 10th of 2020.
Thank you.
What's the actual cost? Our actual.
Well, we don't know the rate. Yeah, once the council approves, we issue a statement, official statement. We'll bid it out basically, and then whoever gives the city the best interest rate gets the award. So I don't have an interest rate at this time.
For the RAN last year, for the 45 million or whatever it was, do you know how much we ended up spending in fees?
I could get back to you on that. I don't know if I have that here. I'll get that for you. Yeah.
Any other information anybody wants in regard to the RAN? All right. I'll go back to 11 for the moment for Dave Proack. Dave, do you want to describe this one? And then I was asking if you can supply us with an overall summary of all our connections in the city and what we pay.
Sure. Apologize for my tardiness. This is an amending a previous ordinance. These are 4 locations. There's 4 city parks locations where Spectrum has to perform construction to bring the connection in. All right. And when they conduct the survey, they do an on-site survey once we sign the paperwork, once the ordinance was passed. Prior to that, the numbers we were using were based on a desk audit they do, so they're estimates. In the 4 locations, 2 locations actually went down in price, and 2 locations went up in price. The biggest increase was at Meacham. Meacham went up by like $7,000 because of the length of the run they have to make to get into the building, and the make-ready work they have to do on I believe it's the National Grid poles there.
What did the 2 go down? How much did they go down? One went up 7. What did they go down?
Yeah, the net of all of them is $6,603, but like Burnett went down by $500 or $600. Sunnycrest went down by $1,200 or $1,400, something like that. And I forgot what happened on the 4th one, but the net changes of all 4 are $6,603. The big increase was at Meacham. So once again, the process is You ask them to do a site audit. They do it from a desktop. They don't leave the office for that. I got the ordinance passed for that amount of money. Then they come out and do a field audit. We met them there. We walked them through it. And the results of the field audit are the changes that we're asking you to support now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thanks, Councilman.
13, the Erie Canal appropriation. This is just our,
This is an annual that you do because we got a grant from them to build a visitor center. This is what we have to support.
yeah.
Good afternoon, Janet Burke, the Bureau of Research. This is our annual contract with the Erie Canal Museum for $28,000. It's actually been decreased from the previous years to partially fund the Urban Park Visitor Center.
What was it last year?
$40,000.
Wow, okay. Any questions?
So that's a steep decrease. Are we planning on continually decreasing this? Is this part of the things that we're trying to phase out? Or?
I'm not certain. I know the answer to that. I think that would lie with the mayor's office.
Okay. Just curious if this is one of those.
There was a condition, I was the Urban Cultural Parks Director at the time. We built the expansion onto the visitor center. The city built that, even though the county owns the building and the museum rents it. The condition of the grant was that we support this program. So
Okay.
we must be getting towards the end of that condition.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're past the end of that condition. That was several years ago.
Okay, so it's been expired now for what, 2 years?
Yeah.
And these go towards administrative,
Right. To go in there.
Yes.
so we're cutting this person's salary.
I don't know that it goes directly to salary, but it's certainly a cut.
And there's no fee to get in, correct?
No.
That's, okay, that's phenomenal.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. 14, Ruthnie, do you want to describe it?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Ruthnie. I direct communications for the city. This is requesting permission for the city to participate in the Federal Work Study Program as an employer and approved placement site as part of the agreement with the city. Students will be hired at New York State minimum wage to be placed in positions not normally filled by full-time employees. In addition, students must be enrolled in a Syracuse University or Onondaga County College and live in the city or on campus for a period of a year. The students will be paid by the city, and then the city will be reimbursed by Syracuse University at 50%.
I know my colleague has a question, but I want to ask you quickly. It says Onondaga County College, or is it OCC Community College?
The reason we did Onondaga County is because we'd like to be able to expand this agreement to Lemoyne and OCC. So as long as the students are living on campus in Onondaga County at either OCC or Lemoyne College or Syracuse University, we want to be able to allow them to work
That
here as
opens up
federal
a
work
broad
study.
spectrum when you say Onondaga College.
Same thing.
I think it just should have an S,
Okay.
and then it would read more.
Could you give me an example of what jobs this might fill?
So, a part of this agreement, students would come here as federal work study students, and they would almost work just like interns. The only difference is that they would be paid through the federal work study program. These students are not taking over jobs that already exist. We can't fill city positions with these students. The students are capped at up to 20 hours. They're not incurring benefits. It's almost like the same job code that we would use for the summer jobs program. So, for instance, our interns have done wonderful things for us over the summer and during the regular year, from clerical work, administrative work, and special projects. These students would continue doing that same work in city departments.
What's the time span? How long would they be here?
For the semester. So whatever semester the departments choose to participate is when they would get federal work study students.
I guess my question, so we're going to start using students. Is there a lack of folks that want to do this work, or why are we using students and not like regular residents of the city?
The city has participated in the city has participated in the internship program before. again, these students are doing the same kind of work that the students that come here over the summer are doing when they participate in the summer jobs program, and they're paid to be here. We see this as an opportunity to create more opportunities for college students to work at City Hall, work in city departments, and get relevant experience doing this kind of work. So the only difference between an intern that's coming here and getting credit is that this particular student would be coming here and getting paid, and the city would be reimbursed at 50% of that pay.
I had a couple of concerns relative to this because I personally didn't see the value, to be quite frank, because we already had interns who come here. The difference, as you mentioned early on when you started, is that they're getting paid. I have two specific questions, though. One, is there a hard number of students that can participate in this program? And then two, is there a hard percentage of these students that will be, for example, from OCC? Because OCC students are the more likely students to be from in the city.
We're talking to other colleges about having them participate in this program. Syracuse University was the first university to open its doors and say, we're more than happy to participate in the program. That's why we do ask that the students live on campus, that we know that they're in the city. I've reached out to OCC and I've reached out to Lemoyne College. SU has gotten back to us the quickest.
So the city initiated this effort, not the other way around?
Yes.
I'm sorry, how many employees did you say, Ruthie?
So for the spring semester, we're looking at something small, up to 5. For instance, 2 would be placed at the mayor's office. I know IT has had interest in working with students. When it comes up to competing for internships, there's a very short window of time to do it. This makes the city a more attractive place for students to want to do this kind of work during the school year.
Were we having trouble getting interns?
Internships right now is not a formalized process during the regular school year. Departments, at their capacity, reach out to schools with whatever relationships they have to allow the students to be able to intern here. But I feel to make this equitable, it's an appropriate channel that we can use to formalize the internship process. These students would be considered they would be working alongside interns. There's not a special designation between them and interns. Only difference is that they're being paid through federal work study. So they would be doing the same kind of work, performing the same kind of work as interns. Right now, there's no unit that can tell you how many interns are interning at the city, but at least through a process like this, students are coming in through one channel. They're all being processed the same way. We will know who those students are. We can follow up with them, and we can make the city a more attractive place to intern formally.
I can appreciate the opportunity that the students would have. SU, for example, is, I think, experts in that respect for real field experience relative to curriculum requirements. But when I talk about value, I'm talking about value to the taxpayer in the city, right? And to me, the only real value exists if there were actually people who live in the city, to Councilor Ryan's point, that participated in this program, one. People who are going to stay here become acclimated to government and its processes. That makes more sense. And it seems that our greatest shot for that specific group will come from the community college as opposed to Syracuse University and I'm just making a point here, or Lemoyne. And so I'm not sure if my question was answered about if there was a hard number or a hard percentage.
There is no max with SU at this time. We haven't gotten this far in the conversation with Lemoyne or OCC. On the department side, it becomes a matter of how many of those departments can handle, because federal work study is New York State minimum wage, so the departments would have to budget for that. So if a department feels like I can handle 1 to 2 students, then they would budget for that appropriately and they would get the reimbursement monthly. So I would be more than happy to work with the departments to talk to them about how many opportunities per department they can facilitate. I envision 1 to 2 students per department participating in this. And I'm more than happy to continue to talk to Lemoyne and OCC to make sure that students who live here have the opportunity to have this as well. So I can't speak to the cap for OCC or Lemoyne just because we're not that far in conversation yet. But I do know that at the city department level, 1 to 2 would be a vision. If we were to consider doing this with OCC or Lemoyne, again, we would continue to pursue that the students live on campus. Can I answer any other questions?
The on-campus part, I'd just say that if you were a city resident to start, you probably don't have to live on campus, and you probably should be eligible. It's like a tricky thing.
The reason I'm thinking on campus or in Onondaga County, for instance, the resident dorms at OCC are not in the city of Syracuse. But like Councilor Bay said, a lot of our students who live in the city do attend OCC.
Yeah. Alternatively, you could go to SU and live with your parents, I suppose, if you were from Syracuse, to save money.
But if you're living with your parents and your parents don't live in the city of Syracuse, those students would not be eligible.
No, but you're safe. But if you can live in Syracuse and not be in a dorm.
Yeah, if you live in the city of Syracuse but you don't live in a dorm, then that would be fine.
Oh, that would be fine. Okay. I had work study. I loved my work study job. I thought it was great. Did a lot of homework.
And all the funding would be coming out of each department's budget, correct?
Yes.
So this would just be allowing them to take these at 50%.
Yes.
Pay SU paying the other 50%, correct?
Yes.
20 hours a week
We spoke with personnel. We will max it at 20 hours a week.
for a period of what, 4 or 5 months?
Period of a semester, yes.
So
Per
what's the
semester.
budget look like? I mean, for each department, it's what? 20 grand, 30 grand?
It wouldn't be that much. It would be 5 to 10 grand per department or less.
I think the students are also capped on what they can work since they're full-time students. Like, you can't work 20. I think you're capped at like 14.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Clifford.
Good afternoon, counselors.
Good afternoon.
The first item for our department is the appraisal of 139 and 143 Gorland Avenue.
Is that the Elmcrest lot?
Lots, yes.
So on this, how does it work? This happens often. We need an appraisal, and then when was the last time we did an RFP for appraisal services?
Well, we sort of do a mini RFP every time we hire an appraiser nowadays. We used to have certain appraisers kind of on retainer that would do appraisals for a set amount. They've retired or got out of the business or whatever. So now what we do is we send letters out to, in this case, residential appraisers, because these are 2 residential lots, and solicit bids.
Does it seem like instead of doing the mini RFP every time that we should do a bigger RFP to have people on retainer to do
We could do
appraisals
that. We,
more often?
as I said, we did that in the past, but we had kind of pretty good fee schedule for the city. It'd be hard to get people to do it at that fee schedule today.
It still seems like we'd probably get some type of cost savings from doing it, buying in bulk, essentially, from 1 or 2 people.
It's possible we could try to do that.
I think we should consider having an RFP.
It works for residential properties. It doesn't work for commercial properties.
Commercials. So the commercial properties in the past, we did not have the same.
We never had any.
We always have done the mini RFP.
Commercial properties are so varied and different. The fees for them range from hundreds of dollars into many thousands of dollars.
But I'm going to piggyback on top of Councilor Rudd, because since I've been sitting on this council, I have a problem with not RFPing it. I have a problem with waiver of competitive bid, because I think that everybody should be given an opportunity to bid on these different projects. So I would like to see more RFPs going out for services.
Anything over $10,000 we're required to do an RFP.
I mean, okay, we won't debate that here because,
But these would add up to more than 10,000 if we added them up over the course of a year.
But they're individual properties, so yeah.
Okay, I think we should consider that moving forward.
Okay.
Sorry, any other questions about the appraisal? The other 2 changes, you just want to describe them?
Yeah, there's a couple of role corrections. Some of them are, a couple of them were to remove a cleanup charge. And then there's one to add a veterans exemption.
Do you think you could find out what the mistake was with the cleanup charge, whether it was
Right,
just
I was gonna
erroneously
ask that.
recorded or...
Well, I could ask somebody from codes, who were the ones who told us to correct this.
Just to see what the mistake was.
Right.
Sure, if you'd like to know, I can try to get something from codes to you.
More concerned just about the 164 Seymour Street.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Any other questions?
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Is there anybody to talk about 18? Do we have to discuss this in executive session, or is this,
Yes, good afternoon. Joe Barry from the Law Department. Number 18 would request executive session on Monday, as usual. And number 19, we are requesting a waiver of competitive bidding because of the specialized nature of these services. They're really, this is kind of a niche area. Very few firms do this type of work. We have one firm on board already, Counsel Press, who does mainly our state appellate work. Would like to add a Pale Tech to do our federal court appellate work.
Where are they out of?
I would have to check into that. I believe they're local, but I'd have to double check.
do you think that part of the tendency to waive competitive bid is higher for these dollar amounts that are closer to the threshold? Like, if this were for 120,000 instead of 12,000, would we be more? Would we still be waiving competitive bid, or is it like a? I understand.
It depends on the type of contract in each department that's using a particular service. In our case, these are very specialized services. We estimate the budget because we don't know with litigation what we'll need, throughout the year. So we want to have a decent amount so that we don't have to come back to you several times. But it's really difficult to estimate litigation expenses for an upcoming budget year.
Do we already know, and not to encourage gaming us, but if the threshold's 10,000 to come and get our approval for a waiver for competitive bid, is that true?
It's different for RFPs versus waivers and competitive bids.
Different.
The RFP is 10,000.
And the waiver
These are
for
considered
everything?
professional services.
It'd be any number. You
Any
have one
number.
in here for
Okay, never mind. Forget my question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Parking.
Counselor, item 20, EDC, Electronic Data Corporation, since about 2007, they've been retained by the city to provide the software that we use to collect and manage the parking tickets in the city. The price of $20,000 is for annual support and licenses for city employees to access this system. The price actually went down a few thousand, so it's $20,000. That's one component, so that's an annual request. Like I said, we've been asking for this waiver since 2007. In addition, a one-time purchase is requested, about $17,000. What the plan is for us to integrate the cashiers, the cash registers in finance with the boot van and the software, the AIM software, which is the parking ticket software. It's a one-time request, one-time payment, not to exceed, I believe it was the quote was $17,600.
How would that integrate it? Just
Electronically, the computer programmers would need the right programming
would that
to...
clean up the cash issue we have down there?
No. Many of those outstanding tickets are, I know we've discussed this over some time. Many are unknown. We just don't know who the plates belong to. Now, one of the interfaces we've had, as you recall, the last couple of years is what we call DMV interface, where we are now able to detect an individual who surrenders plates and still has outstanding tickets. So those are pursued, but many tickets in the backlog, we're probably never going to collect on many
So
of
when
them.
do we wash them out then? If we know we're not going to collect them,
Well,
when do we stop carrying them?
Well, there's two options. There's no effect on the financial statements. So let me start there. So in that sense, it doesn't affect our books and records. But in the parking records, we're not quick to write those off. We would come to council to do that. But if we wrote those off, with the initiatives we've taken in the last couple of years, with the DMV access, we just don't want to eliminate those if there's a possibility we could collect on them.
And so my question to you is, so how long do you hold on to these? 20 years, 30 years? How long do you hold on to them?
It's as long as the city would like to. There's no requirement to write them off. As I said, what's most important, they don't affect the financial records of the city, financial statements. They're not on the balance sheet as receivables. They're just outstanding. The question is, are we pursuing them? And the answer, yes. In the last couple of years, again, with the DMV initiative, we've been able to move forward on some of those.
So in December 2017, the city auditor had a audit of the parking violations. On page 5, there's this paragraph, and it says, after examining the various categories of ticket statuses, we have come to the conclusion that the current system does not track ticket violators with enough accuracy. So does this is the 17,000 like?
Well, no, the 17 is a separate.
Accuracy issue addressed somehow, or is that still the same, or?
No, again, in going back a few years, the AIM software just tracks payments. It works. We have special registers that their payments are applied to, and it works with the boot van that drives throughout the city. That's what that software does. This 17,000 they were asking you to integrate is with all of the above. Right now, we don't integrate with the finance registers in the Department of Finance. That's the ultimate goal, to integrate with those and the city's credit card company. Invoice Cloud was selected as the credit card processor. The intent is to have all the applications be able to speak with one another.
Is AIMS the primary system now, or is it the legacy?
No,
system?
AIMS is the primary.
Oh, it is the primary.
Right.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 21. Is there someone from DPW?
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Monin. I'm DPW. I'm Park and Garage Supervisor for the city. Item 21 refers to our partnership with Syracuse University, Syracuse Stage, to keep our garage at Madison Irving open some extended hours, select hours throughout the year to accommodate an overflow that they have occasionally with their shows. We worked with them last year kind of like on an as-needed basis. This year we thought it would be better to formalize the agreement. They asked us for a target number of what we would need to stay whole to do this, and the number was 20,000, and they've come up with the 20,000.
And I'm not opposed to it, but let me ask you a question. So for the 20,000, is that at our rate? Is it at the rate that we charge the garages, or were there discounts?
It's based on how many hours that they're asking us to keep open and what it costs us to pay the workers at the garage for those hours. That's all it is.
So it's not the $85
No,
rate?
nothing to do with monthly rates or anything like that. And it's all extra hours that the garage would normally be closed. So it won't impact the people that normally park there, because they're already gone, for the most part.
Backing up from this one specifically, how do we constantly reevaluate what our hours are going to be, or is it based on requests, or how do we determine, the downtown garages, for example, if there's a market for additional weekend service or night service?
It's kind of it's monitored through the cooperation we have, or the partnerships we have with our management companies. We have two companies, Laz and Republic. I'm in communication with them on a daily basis. Anytime there's an event coming up, any of the events we have downtown, which are quite often in the summertime, we usually keep the garages open for those events. We know, based on time now and experience, when to keep the garages open and when it's not worth our while to do it. That's how it kind of goes. But most of the garages operate on a very regimented, regular basis, 8 to 5 or whatever the schedule is.
Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So item 22, so this is the expansion of the sidewalk snow clearing. We're going to have a specific committee meeting on this due to the details associated with it. So we're going to try to schedule for Friday. So I'm going to try to get that scheduled today. But at a high level, I guess what we're going to be looking to discuss is the new map. So this is now 38 miles instead of 20 miles. So, what new streets are included, how those streets were determined, and the metrics. And then on a broader level of, where this program stands in terms of the long-term vision. Is it going to, how are we going to be evaluating this year, and are we going to continue to try to expand it or break it off where it is? So that'll be Friday, as soon as I get the time.
And I know you're having a committee.
Yeah, I got questions today.
Committee meeting on it, because I think, what was the time span that we had when they took over? It wasn't a full season, right?
No, in February.
And so we're we're looking at trying to see what the full season looks like?
Yeah, that's correct. I took over in February of last year to April. They're going to go with our snow season, which is November to April.
So three things real quickly. I can probably guess why there's a request for a waiver of competitive bid. Obviously, it's a larger amount of money to be waiving RFP for. I'm going to assume that the argument would be timing, and that the time is short. But I would think that we would maybe give consideration to it earlier, so that timing doesn't become a reason for why we may want to waive competitive bid. And that's just my position. Two other things, though. I believe we were supposed to, and maybe this is what Councilor Green is referring to, receive a progress report of sorts on the pilot program, because the first one was a pilot program to demonstrate its potential for successes or not, and that would ultimately determine if we would fund it further and expand it. But I don't recall us receiving any kind of report on successes on the pilot program.
I don't know if we have that report or not.
We certainly didn't get it.
Neil Burke with DPW. The report was delivered last year at the culmination of the snow season. If you'd like it again, we can
Yeah, I'm not
circulate it
sure
again.
where it was delivered, but I certainly didn't get it. I'm
Sure.
not sure if others got it.
It covered some very basic standard items about how many deployments, what we saw over the course of the deployments, and where we think it was going to go for this year, if there were any tweaks that could be made in discussions with the contractor.
Was there any feedback from these particular streets?
We had positive feedback on this program on a number of different routes, and that came from residents. It also came from some businesses. There were only a few small areas where there were issues with clearings that related to existing conditions, and those are things like utility poles that narrowed the sidewalk and things like that. But by far and large, it was a positive experience.
I want to be clear. I'm in favor of the snow removal program, but we need to have the data to justify increasing its cost. I know the council president, maybe even Councilor Thompson to remember, and maybe even Councilor Ryan, I voted for a snow removal program twice before and it failed. So I'm happy that we have one, but at least if we have an argument that we can intelligently make to people who ask about it, we would appreciate that.
Understood, and we'll circulate that here in the coming days.
And Councilor Green is going to have a committee meeting on it, but once we have the committee meeting, are you going to be able to present to us everything outlined in this, like local hiring and all that good stuff that we asked for?
For contract specifics, I'll have to defer to the administration, but at the committee meeting, we're prepared to go over the nuts and bolts here.
I'm good.
Is there an audit done on the contractor's percentage of local hiring or MWB standards, or that work had to be done, right?
I assume so, but I can't answer that question.
They used their staff last year. They hadn't gotten so in depth because it was such a short span that they weren't able to tell us do local hiring. But if we're going to do this, then we have an opportunity to get our folks on the ground.
So last year there were only a few members, but one of them was from the city of Syracuse.
So there is a provision in the agreement to hire city residents this year. Last year it wasn't, obviously it was a shortened season. This year we have a few provisions in this agreement, and that's one of them, along with the insurance, but we can go over.
Yeah, we can go over at the committee meeting because it's twofolds for me because the local unions didn't like it. So it's a lot we need to talk about.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Carney is not here, but he asked Councilor Ryan
Either
to
way
take
is
his.
fine. Thank you, Madam President. I have Councilor Carney's items. Would you like to go through them?
Yes. Good afternoon, Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Items 23 and 24 are both to accept donations, one being a donation for us to purchase additional rental skates at Sunnycrest, and the other one, a donation for baked goods for holiday events coming up.
Yeah, there's no questions there.
Item 25 is a request to an amend a very recent ordinance. It was just inadvertently left out that we needed to include a management plan within that ordinance. So nothing actually changes with the dollar amount. We just needed to add that in there.
Okay.
Item 26 and 27 are a request for project authorization related to Burnett Park Pool.
Yeah, we're good there.
Okay. Item number 28 is authorize, enter an agreement, or a payment, to Landmark Theater, again, for a holiday event coming up, showing of a movie. And item number 29 is to authorize a payment, a one-time payment. This is for our current recreation software system that we're using. In order to do input GIS data integration. This will help us filter out non-residents who put in a Syracuse address that is actually outside of city limits, but they can take advantage of a resident rate. This will help filter that out so that they are not able to do that.
And before you leave, and I let Jeremy get away, are the trucks or the equipment, have we gotten GPS on everything?
So that the install is actually taking place at DBW, but I think a good number of my vehicles already have the GPS installed. I don't have the exact number. If we have a few missing, it would be just a few, but every time we get a new vehicle, my understanding is that it goes in at the same time. Jeremy's not here.
I know. Is Jeremy in the hall?
I can log on and access about 40 of my vehicles. I don't have an exact count of how many vehicles, but it is becoming part of the process. It's a part of the regular routine.
Because I want to know if we're close to being GPSed all the way around.
Parks and Rec was one of the first, outside of DPW, we were one of the first departments that also was near the top of the list. So I can only speak for Parks and Rec, but we've been involved from the very beginning, once the plows all had it installed.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one last question about the Burnett pool?
Yes.
So none of it's coming out of city money, correct?
So 400
is putting it up and then getting reimbursed?
Not all of it is reimbursable, but it's coming out of, so 450,000 of it is going to be reimbursed through a DASNY grant, and the rest is coming out of current capital accounts that I already have.
Okay, so about, what, 175,000 or something, or what is it?
About 200, sorry.
Somewhere in that ballpark?
Yes, so it's a 620, yes, so 175.
It's coming out of city money?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
This is a repair that desperately needs to happen.
And those have already been appropriated, right?
That's what you're, what's that?
The capital dollars.
Yes, the capital ones have.
Accounted for.
It's 3 capital accounts
I
combined.
remember doing it last year. We
Yeah.
did 100 or something.
It's for under pool improvements. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Those are Counselor Carney's items. They're ready.
Thank you. And you're taking Counselor Lovejoy. Who's doing Counselor Lovejoy's item? Well, I'll do it. So, who's here to speak on that one? Hello?
This is an annual appropriation for legal.
Well, it is, but we've been having conversations about this annual appropriation as well, and so I'm just gonna
I feel like they were just here.
put a hold on it until Counselor Joy comes back on Monday. Counselor Lovejoy, I said Joy. Ooh, wow. Counselor Dave or Counselor Allen?
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Allen has items 31 through 59. Yes, Ms. Amendola.
Good afternoon, councilors. Heather Lamandola, zoning administrator. The first two, that's to abandon a portion of the 400 block of Tracy Street, and they're authorizing a
Well,
hearing.
you'd have to move the advertising, and then we can't do anything until November 18th, if you wanted to consider at that point.
How much of that street is left to be abandoned?
This is the last piece.
So we move 31 and hold 32.
32 till the 18th.
I mean, I believe there's a number of questions relative to this. It doesn't seem like anybody's asking any right now. Questions, comments, questions for later? Got to think about it? Anybody?
The whole street has been abandoned, so there's a lot of businesses in there, so you can ask them. I know why they're doing it.
All right, well, 31 is ready, 32 is held, and I guess we'll have further discussion in Monday's study session. Item number 33.
This is a petition from the Landmark Preservation Board to the Planning Commission, who recommended designation of a local protected site at 429 North State Street, and it was a result of a demolition proposal.
Is there any design plans for, because I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the plan is to demolish this one and maybe put something else in its place?
Yes, that's what triggered this whole process, is the property owner proposed to demolish the building and build a new building on the site.
Kate Atwater had contacted my office. She was trying to reach Counselor Allen to hold a committee meeting on this in advance of the vote. We got input from people.
If any of the count, I do have some initial drafts of the development plan, if I can forward them on.
What building is it?
This is, so the one that I know it as is Ilario's, the restaurant on the corner of Belden. It's a yellow brick building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Belden?
All right. I thought, isn't
Pearl and Belden, maybe?
this the San Miguel?
It's a Mexican restaurant.
Okay, but it used to be called Ilario's.
That's what I
Sorry.
remember
I know.
it as.
I didn't know it was Ilario's.
Just a big yellow building.
So what I'll do,
Vinny's,
just kind of hold with a question mark and let Councilor Allen deal with it. It's back.
So we will have a committee meeting on that. Yeah.
I'm assuming, I certainly have questions, so I'm sure
Same,
others do. So.
yeah.
All right. No, item 34.
This is a special permit for used motor vehicle sales and light-duty motor vehicle repair at 608 to 610 Hiawatha Boulevard East.
Is this existing?
No, it's new construction.
Council.
But it says, no one spoke in
5 people
favor,
spoke in
and 5 spoke
opposition.
You
against
want to
it.
look into that, Councilor?
Please.
Yeah, I'd like
All right.
to.
Please.
We can hold that.
And then item 35, this was the remand back to the Planning Commission for the gas station, convenience store, and restaurant on East Brighton and Thurber, and they did approve or recommend approval for the plan with the full access driveway on Thurber and right out only at one of the driveways onto Brighton.
I believe all the councilors remember this one, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, is that what was requested?
Yes, that was the plan that was submitted. Mhm.
So, no
So when you
questions?
had me remand back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call that, if there's no concerns or questions, we'll call that one ready. Item number 36.
Good afternoon, councilors. Yolanda Johnson, Construction Development Coordinator. The property owner at 707 First North Street is requesting a fence that's going to encroach into the right-of-way on First North Street.
Is it existing?
From my understanding, it is not existing. Not the chain link fence, at least.
It gets built right next to the sidewalk, right?
I believe so. Yes, I can check.
Any questions, concerns, anybody? No? Oh, all right, call that ready.
Thank you.
The rest of the items are land bank items, I believe.
From 37 to 44, those were held items from the last meeting.
Right, and Councilor Carney isn't here, so we'll continue to hold his items that he held last week until he says different next week.
38 I'm still working on.
38 you're still working on? And I'll hold Lovejoy Grinnell's as well. Councilor Driscoll, 45, is that still on?
No, I believe, I'll call both of those ready, I believe. Yeah.
And I'll hold Lovejoy Grinnell's for 3. So we can start with item number 48.
We're gonna hold 48, 52, and then 51, 54 are ready.
All right, I know that Councilor Allen requested that I hold all items in the 4th. Item number 50, Councilor Driscoll.
Yeah, good.
It's ready?
Yeah, ready.
Down to 55, I'll just put a question mark for Lovejoy Grinnell, and 56 and 58. So I believe that's all the items. Anybody have any specific questions for MDD? 59 is held, yeah. Any councilor have any specific questions for MBD? No? All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, I see some students. I'm not quite sure where they're from. They could be from the university, they could be from SAS, but SAS, all righty. I want to say welcome to, where are you from? Same school. Welcome SAS to our council meetings, and thank you for being here. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Adjourn.